Beep, 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 beep. Morning peeps, afternoon peeps, evening peeps, depending on where you are around the globe. Welcome to the court of the EDI Jester. How you doing, our kids? I hope you're all right. It's actually quite a nice day for a change. Here in the UK, for those of you that are down under or across the pond. What have I got for you today? Well, as some of you may know, Richard Dawkins has been speaking out about the woo-woo and the nonsense. And he's now gifted us with a rather good article that I think it's worth us listening to. There's a very serious picture of him in the article. Go and have a look. It's quite scary. I don't know why, but it is. Go and have a look. See, that could be me being mad. But we've got, how can we have a proper debate when we no longer speak the same language? That's the title. This is a smart bloke, remember. If you don't know Dawkins, you should have a look. You know, he's very interesting. He invented the term meme. Do you know that? He did, yeah. Don't look incredulous. He did. He invented the word meme. And a theory called memetics. Man's a genius. People didn't know what to do with it in the beginning. They were like, what's he on about now? Now look. Now look. In the culture wars, says Richard, hypersensitivity and accusations of hate risk leading us into an Orwellian future. I was about to start work on this commission when in came an email from Twitter. They'd received a complaint that the following tweet violated their standards. Sex, this was the tweet, sex is not the same as gender. But it's not your gender that gives you the physique to tower over women athletes and break their swimming records. It's your sex. It's not your undressed gender that upsets women in changing rooms. It's your sex. You can't eat your cake and have it. Twitter sensibly overruled the complaint and cleared me of the prescribed sins that they helpfully listed for me. Violent speech, violent and hateful entities, child sexual exploitation, abuse, harassment, hateful conduct, perpetrators of violent attacks, suicide, sensitive media, illegal private information, non-consensual nudity, account compromise, plus various legal technicalities. I'm sure the complainant was sincere, and that's my point. A certain type of activist has a level of paranoid hypersensitivity that almost literally warps their hearing. You can say, I disagree with you for the following reasons. But all they actually hear is, hate, hate, hate. It's true. It's true. It's so true. So instead of putting a counter-argument, which I would be interested to hear, good luck with that, Richard. Because they ain't got one, right? They resort to censorship. All too often it goes further and they boil over in virulent abuse, transphobe, turf. At least the above tweet was partisan, but so hair-trigger is the hypersensitivity. A mere invitation to discuss something is enough to set it off. He gives an example. In 2015, Rachel Dolezal, a white chapter president of NAACP, was vilified for identifying as black. Some men choose to identify as women and some women choose to identify as men. You will be vilified if you deny that they literally are what they identify as. Discuss. That 2021 tweet caused the American Humanist Association to withdraw my title as 1996 Humanist of the Year, a 25-year retrospective swipe, which cost them the loss of several major donors. Once again, I have no doubt they were sincere. You hear that word sincere quite often, you know. They talk about people, but they're sincere in their beliefs. Right? Oh, they're sincere in what they say. Sure, many tyrants were sincere in what they said. Sincerity is not veracity. How about that? On July the 26th, Richard continues, I interviewed Helen Joyce about her book Trans. The interview is being very well received on YouTube. That's because it was a damn good interview. As it should be, for Joyce is extremely well informed in her subject and she spoke cogently, soberly, reasonably. But one of YouTube's in-house judges heard only hate and tried to censor the interview. Short of an outright ban, YouTube has a variety of punishments at its disposal. Tell me about that. Yeah. They certainly have, Richard. In this case, we get a minor slap on the wrist, a restriction on our video's license to advertise. It's not a small thing, Richard, to be able to restrict somebody's income based on the wibbling of one mad staff member. But the real point is, yet again, the ludicrous hypersensitivity of the complainant. Those warped ears heard not reasonable argument deserving a reply. but hateful and derogatory content and hate or harassment towards individuals or groups. Obviously, I can't disprove that here. The interview runs to more than 10,000 words, but judge for yourself. It's still up on YouTube. I earnestly challenge Evening Standard readers to search diligently for literally anything that a reasonable speaker of the English language could fairly call hateful. Enter it, labelled challenge, in the comments section under the video, and I promise to respond. I just said, a reasonable speaker of the English language, and maybe here lies the key, language. If we want a fruitful argument, we'd better speak the same language. In today's overheated sparring over sex and gender, both sides may appear to be speaking English, but is it the same English? Does hate mean to you what hate means to everyone else? Or there's violence, the Oxford English Dictionary defines as the deliberate exercise of physical force against a person, property, etc. And that is certainly the meaning I understand. Advocates of free speech often invoke as a sensible exception incitement to violence, where physical force is normally applied. But that sensible exception would mean something very different if you redefine violence to include the non-physical. If someone calls you she when you prefer they, I might see it as a mild discourtesy, but if you see it as a violent threat to your very existence, then our interpretations of incitement to violence, and hence freedom of speech, are going to diverge sharply. As a textbook example of incitement to real violence, you could hardly do better than brackets Sarah Jane Baker. I wonder if Dawkins has heard of my theory on this, which is that Sarah Jane Smith and Tom Baker, that's where he got his name. I think he's a Doctor Who fan. I think that's where he got it from. Go on, prove me wrong. You can't, because nobody knows really. But I do wonder. Then, sadly for me, Dawkins undoes his argument. You could hardly do better than Sarah Jane Baker's speech at London Pride. Where's she? It's not a she, Richard, it's a he. Here you are talking about the language. You can't use their language. Don't use their language. It means the opposite of what it's supposed to mean. For God's sake, you can't make the argument on one point for really... I'm arguing with Richard Dawkins. What the hell is wrong with me? I've got delusions of grandeur, Richard. You can't do it, Richard. Come on. Right? If you see a turf, said this horrible bloke, punch them in the fucking face. Fucking face. Or Sky News has a picture of two SNP politicians grinning in front of a large colourful sign depicting a guillotine and the slogan, decapitate turfs. They claim they didn't know the sign was there, and I sympathise. You shouldn't be blamed for the company you keep. No doubt I shall be labelled right-wing for writing this article. And that's the most unkindest cut of all. Richard, as usual, is eloquent. Listen to me. Who the hell am I? But go and read it, because there's a lot more to the article again. I know I do this. I know it annoys some of you. I'm not going to read it all. Okay, these people have written this. They will probably get paid based on how the article does. Go see the article. But I got to say it, Richard. It's brilliant. I love it. It's great. But you can't play their game. But yes, you're right. This is about language. It's about misunderstanding. But I can't help but think this smacks of both-siding. There is no two sides, right? There's reality and lunacy. Good and bad. That's it. You know, there is no middle ground here, Richard. So when you capitulate by describing one of them as she when it's a he, you then become part of the very problem which in your article you are attempting to present as needing addressing. I feel terribly arrogant and stupid now. I'm arguing with Richard Dawkins. Except obviously he won't see this, but you know, if you do, Richard, if you do, you know, come on, man. The battle's ontological, I think, as opposed to linguistic. That's a conversation to have. Is the battle ontological, i.e. about knowledge production, or is it about linguistics? Right, and the clash of the Argos. How's that helping? You know, so here we go. Richard Dawkins, do better. I am absolutely insane. So today I'm suffering from delusions of grandeur. I think I'm more important than I am. Okay, go read it. You see what Richard had to say. Look, the man's open to a conversation. Let's start one. Okay? Put in the doobries. Tell me the doobries what you think. Whether or not, you know, A, I'm deluded. B, I should be taken out the back and shot. Or C, I've got a point. Come be a warrior teacher. Buy me a coffee. Go on. Buy me a coffee. Come be a warrior teacher. You know, the usual. Okay? So take it steady. Have a great day. I'll see you later.